and very few are diagnostic. Because the 3D echocardiography, cardiac MRI, CT angiographies are preferred for any anatomical delineation, and because they are less invasive and less time consuming. Maybe cardiac MRI may be more time consuming, but can get information in 3 dimensions. So now most angiographies are for assessment of intervention. So what are the current indications for doing a cardiac catheterization or angiography in congenital heart disease? We are left with very few which are routinely done. So generally pre-Glenn shunt assessment is mostly nowadays echocardiography, and if required a cardiac CT. And pre-Fontan assessment, most of the centers are routinely still performing for estimation of PA pressure, and pulmonary atresia with various MAPCOs. And unfortunately, we still end up doing this operability assessment in PH with large shunts. So like the fluoroscopy is generally a real-time X-ray image for guiding manipulations, and many systems are there. And now we need to reduce the noise of the image noise and optimize visualization. And we need to take the per frame dose generally is very high for an angiogram, cine angiography. So whenever you're doing a procedure, so limit your cine angiography to reduce the radiation. Because you are doing the procedure, you are the boss. Not only the child at the table is at risk, everybody around you is at risk. You have to minimize the radiation dose that you can get the information, the required information with the least possible dose. The principle of LARA should be there here also. So we should decrease the frame rate and reduce the number of cine angiogram we do, and get the tubes as close to as possible. Use filters, various other things are there. I cannot go into the detail, but that is a very important thing. We cannot forget about this. I think before we go to the depth of how to do angiogram, how much dye to be injected, and all those things are practical aspects, which is going to be my major part of the talk. But most of the things is in mind. How do you prepare for an angiogram? So angiography in the child is an art. You have to know everything beforehand. What are you going to do? What is your plan A, plan B? Know your patient first. Know your patient. How sick is the patient? How many angios the patient is going to allow you? All those things you should. I think with experience, I think you tend to know all this by you must have done thousands of them. Then you become all right with all this assessments. But beforehand, you should note down the problems with the patient, and each case you have to plan. For example, you go with some cardiac catheterization in a small child. You think that you will take arterial and venous access. Suppose you don't get an arterial access for a diagnostic catheterization. How are you going to complete it with venous access? These are kind of the plans that you have to do. For example, in tetralogy child, for some reason, your surgeon wants an angiogram, but you're not able to get a venous access. Can you complete the whole cath with the arterial access? Which can be done. You just put the pigtail from aorta into RV and do an angiogram, and then the whole study can be done from the arterial side. So these kind of a plan A and plan B you should have in your mind. And you should always know your catheter, the workhorse wire, the stent that we use, we always know them, but you should know your workhorse catheters and the cores that we commonly use. And most importantly, plan your angiogram well in advance. You can't have general or non-selective angiogram just to be sure about the anatomy and all. So you have to be clearly go for the kill. The most important information that you want should be your first angiogram in most of the patient. And it should be tailored to outline the lesion to guide the intervention if you are planning for an intervention. And hemodynamics and oximetry should get the maximum. So remember, as you are starting off, always think like whenever you enter the chamber, whether you want to do the 3 things. The 3 things are monitor the pressure, take a sample for oximetry, and do an angiogram. If you want to do them again or not, at times entry into the pulmonary artery may be difficult. At the end of the procedure, you will think, oh, I could have injected in the pulmonary artery. Even with the hand injection, that could have given more information. So always in the initial phases, ask these questions whenever during a diagnostic catheterization. So always precise position of the patient, choice and position of the catheter. You have to focus on the field of interest, and amount and rate of contrast injection is very, very important. So what is the dye that you are going to commonly use in general? If it's a reduced QP situation, we generally use 1 ml per kg per injection. And then most of the cases are like catheters or if it's an increased flow situation, like a large flowing VSD, we will use 1.5 ml per kg. Another important factor is that generally we don't exceed 4 to 5 ml per kg in a child in one session of an angiogram. So generally, we don't want to avoid that. In a tetralogy or low flow situation, we end up doing generally 4 angiograms. That is why 1 ml per kg is a standard. I think for an increased flow situation, we can use 1.5 ml per kg for one injection in the VSD, for example, and then go to maybe aortic root. That's all is needed in most of these patients. Next important thing is how much should be the flow rate. The flow rate is very simple. Most of these catheters allow you a flow rate of French into 2 plus 2. It's a very simple formula that you remember it. Most of the catheters commercially available right now, the angiography catheters, will allow you a flow rate of the 4 French is 4 into 2 plus 2. That is 10 ml per second flow rate it will allow. So same way you can calculate for a 5 ml, 5 French and 6 French. So another important thing is pressure per square inch. That is the pressure the catheter will allow before this is kind of a safety mechanism put into the injector, beyond which the injector will not try to deliver excess flow. So whatever flow it can deliver at that maximum cutoff rate, it will stop at there. So this is the PSI that we keep. Commonly we keep it for around 550, 600 for a Bowman catheter, for generally the right side injections, whereas you can go around 800, 900 for the left side injection with the pigtail injection. The key in children is getting a good angiogram is a heart rate. You have to vary of the heart rate, and if a patient deserves a beta blocker, you should, if the information is very critical, if the heart rate is very fast, the patient should be sedated. If the sinus tachycardia, you have to control the rate and then proceed. So these are the common angulation that we use, right? RAO, LAO, cranial, caudal, and lateral. So the angiography catheters, we have the one important catheter that we all know, the pigtail catheter, but one important catheter that's of use in our practice will be an angled pigtail catheter. If that is available, you can use it in the right side for injections. And then Burman is a flotation catheter with no end hole, and 7 French has 8 side holes, whereas 5 French and 6 French has 6 side holes. I think fortunately from in few months time onwards, I think we'll start getting Burman catheter again, which will make the right-sided angiograms a lot easier thing. Then you have either multi-purpose catheter with an end hole or 2 side hole, or you can use a NH catheter, for about which a lot of discussion happened in the catheter session. So commonly, like I would tell my resident, especially who are the adult guys who want to do adult tetralogies or other cats, I always tell them, think and superimpose your coronary anatomy in various views. You will immediately get where the septum will be. Like for example, in a LAO view, you can see that clearly the LAD will be flowing in the middle like this, and now that is LAD is the differentiating factor between LV and RV. Same way for the congenital people who are oriented towards the VSD injections in RAO view and LAO view, they can immediately visualize how the LAD will be flowing. So this, I think, integration of these two will clarify a lot of anatomical understanding in the angiography, both coronary as well as structural angiographies, especially in the basic, the initial phases. So coming to the basic views in congenital heart disease that are being used, these are very, very important. I think everybody should pay attention to this. This is a long axial view. That's a commonly done, the common Gardner VSD view that we do. It's roughly around 60 LAO, around 15 to 30 cranial. And then the 4-chamber view, which is classically, you can remember it like 45-45. That's an easy way to remember. It is 45 LAO. It's less LAO than the long axial view. And it's around 30 to 45 cranial view. And then the elongated RAO view, which is 30-30. And then all of them have a variation. These are the commonly used views. So, which view for which cath? So, the hepatoclavicular view is commonly used in AV canal defect. Remember this. This is the view, like it becomes a kind of all the 4 chambers are differentiated. Both the atrial septum and the ventricular septum are in the middle. So, this is exactly the inlet portion that is being opened up. Then it is very good for AV canal defect. And where we used to do ASD angiograms, we used to do it in this view. But most important, commonly done angiography is the LAO cranial view, which is around 60 degree LAO, around 15 to 30 degree cranial view, which is the long axial oblique view, where most of the perimembranous VSD and LVOT obstruction are profiled. That is our working view for most of the VSDs, unless otherwise specified. Then you go for profiling the PA and MPA. We generally go for a shallow LAO cranial view. I will be showing the examples why we do that. I will come to that. So, for ASD, we generally go for a steeper LAO cranial if you want to profile it. And then ascending aorta and coronary origins, generally epicaudal is a very good view. And then for LV function assessment, MR and AR, you go for RAO 30 degree view. So this I already covered. Like 1 ml per kg is what we are going to inject, and generally over 1 second we want to inject. So 1.5 ml per kg, if it's an increased flow, I just put the slide again so that it's reiterated again. If there is severe valvular regurgitation, and PSA is around 8 800. Total dose to be kept below 5 ml per kg. Adults, when you use pigtail, typically we use around 30 to 35 ml in around 12 ml per second for 3 seconds. And then in root angio, the flow rate up to 20 ml per second can be kept. So these are the various maximum PSA that are available. Catheters will allow, like 4 French and 5 French Bowman will allow only 550. Rest of the most of the commercially available catheters, angiographic catheters nowadays allow up till around 1200 PSA to be delivered. So I will come to the, given you an introduction, I will go into the depth of each of these view. So this is how a long axial view, long axial cut of the heart will look like. You have the mitral valve, you have the LV, and you have the aorta, and part of the RV is being seen. And now you can see how nicely the septum gets profiled. You can identify the coronary sinuses, the one on the left and one on the right, and the one on the middle and the posterior is the non-coronary sinus. So think of it, you do everyday coronary angiogram. So this is very simple to identify where the coronaries are originating from. This is a classical long axial view. The common uses are perimembranous VSD, muscular VSD in anterior septum, that is outlet or trabecular VSD, and in HOCM and SAM you use it, and at times you can identify it for mitral valve prolapse also. So coming to the next important thing is the 4-chamber view. So remember it like 45-45, it's around 30 to 45 cranial. It's a hepatoclavicular view. It opens the heart like a 4-leaf flower. So you can clearly identify everything in clear. So here all types of ASDs get profiled. The VSD, especially the AVSD, and the inlet type of muscular VSD, you can see clearly this is the part of the septum which is the inlet septum nearby the tricuspid valve that gets nicely profiled here. Then you can identify LV to RA shunt, you can identify MR here, abnormal attachment of AML. These are all uncommon uses where nowadays angiographies are rarely done. This is a very important view, that is RAO cranial view, like where it clearly shows the outlet VSD nicely. So you can clearly see the outlet VSD in this view. So summary for VSD. I think if you understand this much from my talk, I think my job is done. I think the perimembranous VSD or the tetralogy like VSD where we commonly do every day in and day out is the long axial view. The muscular VSDs, the trabecular and outlet muscular gets profiled in long axial view like the perimembranous VSD view. But inlet VSDs and the AVSD kind of a thing gets profiled in 4-chamber view. The subarterial VSD, elongated RIO view, it gets prolonged. So usually the long axial view is the initial projection taken and then we go forward. So coming to the other thing, so most of the time you get an adult tetralogy, the commonly asked question is, why do you do a cath in tetralogy? What are the indications for cath in tetralogy? Remember, there are 4 things that we want to show. One of them is identify the adequacy of pulmonary artery and show whether the origin of pulmonary arteries has any stenosis. The most common site of stenosis is generally the ostium of the left pulmonary artery. So in order to profile that, we generally give them a cranial tilt. That cranial tilt opens up the pulmonary artery, and in order to profile the LP ostium, we generally give the profile a slight LAO tilt. So commonly this is done in a slight LAO tilt with a slight cranial angulation. You nicely profile the opening. You open out the pulmonary artery. So next important point that we need to identify in tetralogy is additional VSDs. Because in echocardiography, at times, especially in adult tetralogy, you may miss an additional VSD because you may not be able to identify the flows involved. So here it's a nicely done view. One thing that we have to make sure, one practical tip in whenever you are doing an angiography like this is get the apex of you have both the diaphragms are cutting. There is an angle. If you are able to make the posterior border in this view sitting right at that junction, generally you get a good profiling of the VSD. So then other important thing is coronary artery anatomy in tetralogy. Then the same view can be used, and then you have collaterals. So you can identify the collaterals in the AP view. So these are the 4 things why you do it in an adult. Why do you do the tetralogy angiogram? Is to show pulmonary arteries, profile the pulmonary arteries, identify additional VSDs, show the coronary anatomy, and then look for AP collaterals. So then the RV angiogram, different centers have a policy of doing it differently. I have shown all the important views. I think you can profile various aspects nicely in either the typical one shot. I think if you are biplane, you can do both LAO as well as AP, or you can do lateral. That can also show. So I think I will be, angiographic severity of MR has almost become of historical importance because nowadays we don't rely upon angiographic severity to be assessed by echo. But in examination, you should be asked about Seller's criteria. How do you do the angiogram? You should be knowing all this. I'll be happily sharing these slides. I won't be going to the depth of all this. And then angiographic severity of AR, the same way, the same criteria are there. How often, how good it is profiled, how it is getting cleared, based on which we do the classification. Then going beyond the conventional things, we have the branch pulmonary arteries, stenosis, where generally the right pulmonary artery stenosis opens up in extreme, the right RAO views, and the left pulmonary artery gets opened up in LAO-cranial views. So I think nowadays you can use CT angiography. Most of the times in these patients, you already do a CT angiogram, and then you end up checking the CT angiogram, which particular projection is going to profile the artery. That is something very important in unusual things. So coming to the end of my talk, I think one more injection which has become historical importance is in most of the time, but still quite useful in some situation, will be pulmonary venous wedge angiogram. I think after the advent of CT angiography, for anatomical information, we rarely do it to identify the size of the pulmonary artery, but still we often end up doing it for identifying the pressure there. So it has to be performed with an end hole catheter, and you go through the ASD and then go into the pulmonary wedge position. Generally, you DR the catheter, and then you have to particularly take it in such a fashion that you create a column of contrast in the initial part of the syringe, and then you have in the back it has to be a column of saline. So you visualize the true pulmonary arteries in which there is no or demonstrable black flow is there. You can see this, and then you can easily identify. This is a very nicely done angiogram. So coming to coarctation of aorta, I think again here multiple projections are extremely important to profile it, because at times it is not profiled in one view. You must profile it in at least 2 orthogonal views before you do a balloon dilatation, and especially that is a must if you want to check it after balloon dilatation. And PDA, I think all of us seen enough of PDA. I think all the residents must have seen a lot of PDAs angiogram be done. But most of the time nowadays we can do angiograms with only the venous catheter alone. And oftentimes you see this particular 2 angiograms give you a lot of information about how the 2 different views give you different information about the same PDA. Like for example, the PI end gets much nicely profiled in a lateral view. The first angiogram, it is nicely profiled. The PA end gets nicely profiled. You show the narrowing. You see the landmark for putting your device. Whereas you look at here, this is the RAO view. You can see the ampulla is nicely getting profiled. Especially in a smaller child, you see how big is the ampulla, where the device has to be placed. If there is a space for angiogram, if there is space for a device, ampulla, everything can be seen if you do a RAO view. And then another thing always remember is there's always a follow through. So, for example, this patient, there is absent pulmonary veins on the left side. So, follow through, there is nothing. So, always remember to look at follow through, adequately do the injection, and then press the pedal. And oftentimes, you have to instruct the radiographer that you are going to do a longer run. So, if you want to look for the follow through. So, this is clearly, I think, injection is made into the LPA. You cannot see any pulmonary vein from the left side. All the reflex is happening into the RPA, and the pulmonary veins are getting filled from the RPA. They are the right pulmonary veins. So to conclude, so angiography is like a photography. It's an art. It's clearly an art than a science. And a good angiography is the starting point of all intervention. So you cannot think that, okay, I don't mind not doing diagnostic angiography. It is a must that you are able to profile at VSD before you can start putting various VSD devices. So you should know your catheters, views, and structures to obtain maximum information, and optimize the gain and minimize the risk, and never forget the radiation hazard. Especially if you become the first operator, you are the boss of the cath lab, and multiple people are at risk. So thank you.